Okay, so last time we were just going over the database model, and that was saying how we created all of our objects, the sort of pattern or database schema they all followed, and what kind of information and actions each thing in our app can do, and how they're connected. So that's the model in our MVT. So we're going to be using an MVT pattern. This is similar to the MVC pattern that we see in a legendary book known as, the authors are known as the Gang of Four by the Super Nerd Elite. And so you can see that linked here. And it was a simple book called Design Patterns. Wait, I have to stop myself. I said it's simply named. The book itself is complex and interesting, and it's at the highest levels. So that's if you know you're hardcore if you're now studying at that level. But I just mentioned that so you know some more background. So in our MVT, it's a little bit different. So the model is the same in all the MV something. Um, uh, the view is a little bit different. I don't know why they chose, again, I would have to check this. I don't know why they chose to call it the view. Um, the view typically would refer in the MCV would refer to what we call the template, which is all of our HTML and Python code. And so that's like designs the what the user will see, what it looks like. And it has some spots for Python code to be inserted in there so we can customize it for each user and include the data that they want to see. I'll come back to that because the real head honcho here is the view, is the templates. And we'll see that in our files. This is what the file structure looked like. So they, let's say I was making a blog and it had a lot of users. That was pretty much all my website has. Um, you would see the blog object be organized as such, and it would have its database models here. And the blog might have more than one model. You could have a blog and it could have posts and tags within that post. Um, so all of those would be written down there. The views, however, would have all of the logic, the application data that we would normally refer to as our controller. And so that's what I'm looking for. And so um, our view files are going to have are the brains of our application. And so it's going to say, all right, if you're an administrator, then you're allowed to go to this page. And then it would pass the arguments about like maybe that user's name or whatever we wanted in to fill in to the spots of Python in our template, and it would build that page for that administrator. It would render it, and then it would send it back to our user through our gateway. Um, and this is basically the app. This is where most of our study is going to be take place. Um, Building the objects, making the rules and things that they can do, and then building the views that the user would see. And okay, so a couple other terms here. Routes is when our gateway comes in with a request saying, hey, this person wants this page, it would be routed to that particular method. And so this is, I'm speaking actually here, that this in our all in our view files. And so these are all the rules and the controller logic of our blog object. And so those are routes. All right, and session, as the view file is running, it's running Flask and the Flask app, and with a particular user, and so it's going to identify that user. It's going to establish a session with that user and keep some encrypted information with that user. Okay, so when I say Jinja 2 template, Jinja 2 is the thing that actually does the rendering for us. It uses all of this Python code, and so we'll study Jinja 2 to understand how we format the Python code so that it can be rendered and built on request. So our view file, if you go to my cool website / my account page, then the route will hit that. The session may have a cookie in there where it verifies that this person is signed in and legit. Um, and then our Python code will say, okay, this route was activated, so that means look up the person's username or whatever about that user, and then pass that as an argument over to our template, and which will then be rendered into HTML that gets sent back through the gateway and out back to the user. Um, that's essentially how we're going to build our app. And I think that's about it. Yeah, we're good. The last term that's just floating here, and we're going to build this up. So I'm sure in a couple days this is going to be obsolete. But the last term is a regular expression. This is a helpful thing, and it's just sort of a way a computer can scan over text and say, okay, always look for this sort of pattern, a letter, letter, a letter, and then a number, number, number. So it can help you identify phone numbers, for example, because phone numbers are usually written in a similar pattern um, with maybe a space, a dot, or a dash in between. And so you can look for different types of patterns like that. And that's some of the ways that I mention that here because you can start thinking about how a computer scans over text and breaks it down according to different keys or different identifying marks. And so that's very relevant to all of the different languages we're using. So a regular expression, you should look into it a little bit, and it's just a commonly used tool and representative of many of the ways that an interpreter understands the code that we write.